Welcome to That's Based. Happy Sunday. We're going to roll this as a Sunday episode. Yeah, it'll be a Sunday morning show. I'm your host, as always, Caleb Salvatore, reporting from somewhere underground. We're laughing our way through the end of days, brought to you by Outlaw Streamers. I am joined by a special guest here on this special Sunday show. Before we get into her real quick, I know we had some people asking on the Saturday show on Rumble about why we didn't cover the plane crashes. Well, as you know, we pre-tape the Saturday shows. And usually, nothing major happens between when we pre-tape them and when they air. Unfortunately, fucking planes started falling out of the sky, so there's not really anything I can do there. I also just find it, I'm going to wait till the facts come out. I find it gross to speculate on people's deaths like that, especially when people are trying, on both sides, are trying to stand on it on partisan political nonsense. I'm not going to get involved in that. I actually have morals and ethics, contrary to what some people might tell you. But nonetheless, I've got someone here who certainly probably has more morals and ethics than I do. Our guest, Trish Harrold. How is it going today? Thank you for joining me.
Oh, thank you for having me. I would say it's going fabulous as far as what's going on in the Second Amendment world here in the state of Nebraska and the nation. Yeah,
so that's what I saw on Facebook. You were in some like legal battle or political battle with the city councils of Omaha, where I have made the mistake of moving back to Omaha, and Lincoln. What's going on over there?
So in 2023, we passed permitless carry, otherwise known as constitutional carry. Part of that piece of legislation had what's called state preemption, so that we would have one law of the land. As you traveled through the beautiful state of Nebraska, you could be comfortable in adhering to state law with regards to firearms and not have to worry about going through what we call landmines of cities who previously had the ability to kind of set up their own ordinances, their own requirements, their own prohibiting factors even. And so many law-abiding gun owners avoided the cities of Omaha, but especially Lincoln, because of those just ridiculous ordinances. So we thought, great, we got permitless carry passed, we got state preemption passed, we got one law of the land passed, and I think well before we would put it into effect with the signature by the governor, the cities of Lincoln and mayor, their delightful mayors, decided to pass executive orders to circumvent what they thought were parts of the law that allowed for some loopholes. However, those loopholes do not exist. And so we did our best to communicate with the cities, letting them know, hey, you don't have precedents protecting you. Case law doesn't protect you. And our Constitution doesn't protect you. And this new legislation doesn't protect you. And so you are going to put your cities in danger of litigation. And we don't want to do that. We don't want to cost the taxpayers of City and Lincoln any money in order to, defend these illegal and unconstitutional executive orders. And they were egregious. Basically, they established that all city-owned property, including sidewalks, public parking lots, parks, and trails, would be no weapon zones, which is in violation of state law.
That's
insane.
So no
firearms allowed in any of those locations. And so we said, no, we're not going to take this sitting down. We're going to represent our members. We have 26,000 followers in Nebraska, and a lot of them are near and around those cities, and we don't want their constitutional rights infringed. And so we partnered with Liberty Justice Center, which is a nationally known organization that supports civil rights and protects the Constitution, and then Liberty Law Group here in the state of Nebraska. And we put forward litigation suing Omaha and Lincoln.
That was the craziest part to me. I thought I was mistaken when I saw that, but I'm glad somebody verified it. So you really, in Omaha, you can't carry a firearm on a sidewalk?
If the property contingent to that sidewalk is owned, managed, leased by the city, then that's a gun-free zone. And there's been quite an investment of time and effort and materials. The city of Omaha prepared for this executive order. They have signs being posted everywhere, which is why it was so essential that we, address this in a timely fashion. Our court case in Omaha, once it was first heard, we requested an injunction And an injunction basically says the people are going to have their day in court. We got to wait for the schedule to accommodate that. But this is such an egregious violation of our rights and the law. We need a judge to basically prevent that enforcement. And we won that injunction against Omaha. So while there is this executive order, it cannot be enforced.
So let me get this straight on the sidewalk thing, because this is the one that boggles my mind the most. So the sidewalk in front of my house, I can't be. That's mine. Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they like to remind me that when it's time to shovel it. That's why I wanted to make.
Right. Or you have a crack, or there's a tree root. Right.
Yeah. So, yeah. But if I'm walking downtown and all of a sudden I walk in front, otherwise if it's in front of a private business, it's totally legal. But the second I cross over with a firearm on me into a government run, not even into the building, just onto the sidewalk, I'm now committing a crime.
Right. You'd have to cross the street in front of the city, library.
Yeah, exactly. Has there been any, like the Lincoln mayor? I get it. Everyone knows she's a liberal lunatic, full-blown Marxist. Has there been any contact with Jean Stothert? Because she at least tries to pretend to play a Republican. Have you guys been able to make any contact with her, get any type of comment from her, anything like this?
So we have not attempted direct contact. We usually use our connections that help to inform our city officials and city council members. We did reach out to city council members. They're a great resource to have. At least some of them are. However,
the ones that aren't in jail for corruption.
Yeah. Yeah. But unfortunately, it was really interesting. After the executive order, the city council under Festerson decided to put forward 2 additional ordinances, plus like 2 resolutions. The one resolution supporting the executive order by the city mayor. So they happen to do things a little strangely for this particular ordinance session. Normally they will post, here are the topics we're going to talk about during the next meeting. During that meeting, we're going to have public comment. And then the following meeting, we're going to have a vote. So we got word that they decided to sort of change their processes. They put the topics and the public speaking all in the same meeting agenda, and they schedule it for Halloween. Definitely not an attempt to try to keep people from showing up. However, we did show up, and I showed up, and so did many of our members.
Did you show up in costume?
No, I just showed up like a regular citizen.
Okay.
Yeah. And so, you get 2 to 3 minutes to put your voice into the record for each ordinance and resolution. And what was really fascinating is you could really get a sense for which city council members believe in the law, believe in the Constitution, believe in the legislative process, believe in the separation of powers, and those that don't. And so what ended up happening was probably my favorite day I have had in over 10 years of Second Amendment advocacy, because I got called up multiple times by certain city council members in order to offer more education and more information and to counter some of the statements that were being made by the other city council members. And so I call it the schooling of the Omaha City Council. You can find it on YouTube, October 31st, 2023.
Just on the city council YouTube channel, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And anytime I feel a little stressed, overcoming some obstacles that get in my way, I'll go back and watch that, because beyond, the words that I shared, we had a really awesome lady who came and testified, and that was her first time testifying ever. And she just did a remarkable job. And it's one of those things that I think is so important, whether you're involved in politics formally by getting elected or whatever, or you're just an active citizen, there's far more power in the citizenry than most of us realize. And just taking 10, 20 minutes of your day can make a huge difference in keeping these people accountable, being informed, being educated about the process and how our rights are enumerated and protected, and then taking a stand, right? We can't elect these people and then not supervise them.
So were these policies, like the gun-free zones that they established, were these executive orders by the mayor, or was this enacted by city council?
Oh, no, it's totally executive order by her, which goes to your original question. What's going up with the mayor of Omaha? Mayor Stothert, when she first originally decided to run for mayor, made it a point to come to one of the meetings of the Nebraska Firearm Owners Association. We're Nebraska's largest grassroots nonprofit that advocates, primarily for Second Amendment rights and then firearms safety and responsible firearm ownership. So she spent some time talking to us about, she was a concealed carry permit holder, she was a Second Amendment advocate, and what have you.
You hear that a lot. Avid hunter. That's another one they like to use. Yeah.
Yeah. The Second Amendment has nothing to do with hunting.
Nope. Nope.
Now, Article 1, Section 1 of the Nebraska Constitution does bring both together because your right to keep and bear arms obviously had a primary reason for that being put into existence, but it also means you have the tools available to feed your family if that's the case. So, our hunter friends and members are just as important.
Absolutely.
So
anyway, no, and I fully support people's right to hunt, by the way. I was just pointing out that the anti-gun politicians love to throw the hunter, veteran, concealed carry permit holder. Those are the buzzwords they like to throw around to seem, hello, fellow kids, like that kind of thing. So.
I know. The thing that's interesting, though, is they literally do not understand how that falls, not on deaf ears, but on ears that reject that premise. Within the 2A community, we have a very clear and specific definition of what it means to be a Second Amendment advocate. And that has to do with, unfortunately, what is the ultimate reason for having it is in the event, we get taken over by a pure tyrannical government and all our rights start to become, fodder for political power. It's the way the Revolutionary Army was formed and we instilled that into our Constitution. So I'm not here, supporting the overthrow of any government right now.
No.
In the event, like something that like we see in other countries happens here, right? We're a young country and it's happened multiple times in other countries. We won't stand for that. We will stand against it. So going back to Stothert.
Sorry, I didn't mean to trail you off there.
Yeah, no, it's okay. It's a, significant disappointment, but we weren't surprised. And so she's getting information from her city attorney, and, other folks who have different perspectives and if not ambitions. And unfortunately, it's going to cost the city of Omaha taxpayer dollars because right now we have an injunction. And when you have an injunction, it really means that particular judge has established that the harm to citizens is so egregious that we need to stop this harm immediately before we can allow the judicial process to happen. So it's pretty significant. Yeah.
Is it just me or does it seem like she knows she's on her way out? I can't see her winning again.
Yeah. Sometimes when you're an incumbent, right, there's the benefit of being an incumbent. And let's just say no one's perfect, right? So She has done some tremendously fantastic things and great, wonderful. When we look to hire someone to run a city, we're going to look for very similar records or the capacity to do some of that stuff. But unfortunately, you can, become too invested in the role and lose sight of what you're truly purposely supposed to be doing, which is running the city efficiently, focusing on the primary goals of the city, and being careful of how you use city dollars and enact power. And so executive overreach is literally power used or abused, and she's done so. And so that's, definitely not going to help her in the election.
Yeah, so am I going to be able to carry a gun on the streetcar? That's the big question.
Right. I have a wonderful friend down south of us, and she has been fighting the current law, which prohibits firearms on public transportation, right? Mm-hmm. As if all of a sudden public transportation is the safest form of transport.
It's the least.
Yeah. Anytime you're in transition, number one, that's a dangerous place. Number two, it's one thing for a private entity, private business owners, private landowners. They absolutely have a right to determine what they wish. But this is a public accessed conveyance vehicle, right? So public transportation. And thus, our rights should not end the moment we enter the bus.
Right.
I'm going to a place where I'm legally allowed to have my firearm, going to another place where I'm legally also to have my firearm, and I can't have it on the way. That's just ridiculous.
Yeah, that's side note. Never seen. The last time I saw people so united against one thing that Omahans were against the streetcar was like Americans against the Taliban after 9/11. I've never seen so many people opposed to something in my life.
Yeah. No, it's interesting. They did, they spent a tremendous amount of money on the study, and they had a lot of people share, well, this is what's going to happen. This is what's going to happen. The fact that no one believes what the study says, and very few people trust the conclusions of many people who voted for this streetcar within our elected official branch. It just shows that sometimes we have a little bit of elitism where it's like, oh, my poor constituents, I know you don't understand, but trust me, I'm the mama. I know what's going to be best for the family. Just let me make this decision. And here's the thing, even if it was a great decision, even if everything that was, put forward as beneficial was true, they still don't want it. Yeah. Right. So like if I'm full and I know broccoli is good for me and someone starts shoving broccoli down my throat, I'm going to be put off by that.
Right. Yeah. For a number of reasons. Right. Yeah. Where did you get all this broccoli? No, I mean, that's the thing is with studies like that, government funded studies, they always underestimate how much they're going to spend and overestimate the net positive effect on the city or the country or whatever the case may be.
I think the equivalent of our streetcar is like the speed train in California.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you know anything about that,
I don't.
Millions upon millions upon millions upon millions of dollars have been spent. It's been several years, and there's not been 1 inch of track laid down.
That's why I don't know about it, because it doesn't exist. Yeah.
It is, they made fun of the bridge to nowhere many years ago from Alaska or whatever. Now, that bridge went somewhere. That bridge went to a population, a place that was populated that needed access.
That so riverfront, yeah. I've actually been to like concerts and stuff there. It's kind of a cool spot, yeah.
So anyway, so that's what's going on in Omaha.
Yeah.
With Lincoln, the lawsuit against how you described her, I won't repeat, but let's just say
Marxist lunatic. Yes.
We actually failed to get our injunction. So I don't know if it's location, but location matters. So the judge in that particular hearing was like, well, the Nebraska firearm owners and the litigants don't have standing, which means you don't have a right to sue because you haven't been harmed yet. None of you have been arrested for violating this illegal ordinance. None of you have been ticketed yet for violating this legal ordinance. And so the judge threw our request for injunction out. Now that's just ridiculous because we are the law-abiding firearm owner, and thus we're going to comply until the law is changed. We're going to use the processes available to citizens to get this fixed. And so I'm not willing myself, nor am I going to ask the litigants who join me or any of the other NFOA members, hey, I need a bunch of you to go really visibly violate this ordinance and break these laws. I need you to get arrested so we have you as an example of the harmed membership. No, we're harmed by the inability to exercise a right that's duly, innately provided to us from the moment of existence. And so we worked with the Liberty Justice Center and discussed this at length. And the best course of action was to sort of avoid the whole appellate court process, which is going to just delay our ability to exercise our rights. And so we put a petition directly in request of the Supreme Court of the state of Nebraska to hear our case that we don't have standing so we can get back to doing the business of NFOA. And that Supreme Court petition was granted. So we're going to head up to the state capitol where the Supreme Court is in residence. And once we're on the schedule, we'll get that codified into law and thus protect the rights of citizens in Nebraska for any type of issue like this. It doesn't have to be a Second Amendment right. It's any of our civil rights, constitutional rights, and what have you.
Yeah, Omaha gets the bad rap, and sometimes with good reason, but Lincoln really is the communist scourge of the state.
Yeah.
I know you're not going to use harsh language like that because you have to play politics, but I could say it. So when do you think that'll be? What's the timeline looking like?
Gosh, I mean, this is such for us. We've been in existence for 20 years or so. We celebrated our 20th anniversary last summer, and this is the first time we've ever had this kind of level of prominence as far as litigation. We're not like other Second Amendment organizations. We support them. There's like the Second Amendment Foundation, Firearm Policy Coalition, and they have a methodology to use litigation to advance Second Amendment rights. Our organization is very much about being the voice of the gun owner, and we see ourselves, really embedded in the unicameral in the sense that, we have one set of senators. We don't have representatives. So we ourselves are the representatives. So I'm elected to represent the voice of 2A. So I believe that it's a matter of precedence. So once I think we're in line, right? So there's a bunch of different court cases already on the calendar, and then they're going to schedule us, and then we'll get notified, and then we'll head down there and make history.
Do you feel like some of these ordinances might have a nefarious background to them? And what I mean by that is, do you feel like they're maybe trying to entrap the average person with a concealed carry permit that maybe doesn't pay a bunch of attention to local politics? They're not into it at all. They want to have a gun to defend themselves and their family. They take their kids to the park. Somebody sees the print, and then boom, 911 police are there, and now you're going to jail. Do you think there might be some? And I know you hate to to attribute to malice what you can do incompetence, but I just can't. I can't see them putting a sign up that says no guns allowed is going to stop the average gang members from going in there and shooting each other.
So I will say this, having been involved in this for a long time, there is what I call manipulated ignorance. So individuals who don't have a firearm background, don't know any better, follow certain people and certain organizations and certain parties, and they get fed misinformation.
Yes.
And thus that frames their entire perspective, and that's their reality. Then there are those of us who create our own perspective. We go do our own research. We have our own experiences. We validate our presumptions. So those who advocate in an anti-2A, there is a large contingent of what I call the misinformed. However, I will say, having worked so much at the state capitol and watching the senators on the floor debate, especially like LB 77, the permitless carry bill, they will hear from another senator all the facts from superly reliable sources that bunk everything that they're about to say in their prepared testimony. But they know that it doesn't matter. If they get up and the cameras are recording and the official record is getting transcribed, they're going to state it anyway. And so I saw that time and time again with representatives from Lincoln and Omaha who got up with their prepared remarks, doubled down on misinformation, doubled down on a perspective that any one of these things that they were arguing about are going to make a difference in regards to like community safety and what have you, when the ground truth knows that's not the case, right? So we just had a appellate court within the judicial process declare that laws that infringe on an 18 to 20-year-old, their ability to buy a handgun is unconstitutional, for instance. And I just got interviewed by local news and state news yesterday and the day before, or actually yesterday, with regards to that. And we're like, what are our perspectives on the fact that if this goes up to the Supreme Court, for sure, it's going to be codified that there's no longer going to be a restriction to handgun purchasing to those 21 and over. And so we talked about the history. Prior to like the late 1960s, it was perfectly normal for someone 18 and over to be able to, because you're a citizen at 18. That is your age of majority. You're no longer subject to the jurisdiction of your parents and or, the state if you're a warden of the state. You're independent. You have to pay your own bills. You got to pay your own rent. You can serve our country at 17 and a half, what have you. And so when firearm laws get put into effect to address, crime or something like a surge in X or Y, it's a really ignorant and overly simplified solution to a problem that has multiple roots, right? The tree that you see is violence. The leaves might be the use of a firearm. In order to take that tree down, we have to cut it down at its roots, which means we have to address socioeconomic disenfranchisement. We have to address education and training. Firearms is a tradition that gets passed down from family to family, but we have tons of people who don't have any exposure to it. So why don't we have classes in school like the DARE program to help children understand how to be safe and how to be responsible and the necessity for both. And you can do that without, advocating for guns in every home. You can do it in a very neutral way that, helps youth understand that these aren't toys. This isn't how you win an argument. This isn't how you get more territory or get respect. These are tools that come with it, great responsibility. And so what I'm hoping to see is that to be codified, because not only is the Second Amendment in question with regards to this, but the 14th Amendment, which is basically all rights due citizens are due to all citizens. And so if an 18-year-old can vote, serve the country, be independent, then we should afford them the same rights that a 21-year-old should have.
Yeah, that's something I've never understood, was that age thing. So it's 21 to buy a handgun, 18 to buy an AR. That on its own doesn't make any sense at all to anyone who knows anything about guns. But I can go serve the military at 18, but then I can't smoke until I'm 21. But then in Nebraska, you can't sign a contract until you're 19. You'd think why don't we just have one age, and this is where you can do everything? That would make the most sense. So can an 18 to 20-year-old buy a handgun in Nebraska now, or is that something that's going to hopefully change in the near future?
So no, by federal law, nowhere in the United States can someone under 21 purchase.
Okay.
However, at 18, you can own and you can carry in the open, which means when my daughter turned 18, I bought her her first handgun. Now, she had been training and learning with me for years, and so we went and selected which handgun she felt would be the best for her. And she began her journey to prepare to be a concealed carry permit holder. She turns 21 this year. So we just went to some more training last night where we did use of force scenarios and when to de-escalate and when to escape and when and how can you use lethal force to defend yourself from an immediate threat of serious bodily harm, kidnapping, death, or rape, all the legal reasons. And so, for years now, when we're out here in the beautiful county of Cass County, my daughter's open carried and she can. And I know many, many, many young people, 18 to 20, who open carry all over the state because they can. But their parents or guardian had to buy that firearm for them. And so if a parent or guardian can buy the firearm for them, when they get to 21, how do they purchase it? Well, they go get their formal background check, right? They get a NICS background check, which goes through their record. It's a very formal process. So right now we're trusting parents to make the determination, which is great. I believe in parent rights. But at the same time, you're really not in charge of your kid anymore after 18. Now here it's 19, but that's the thing that's interesting. So many of the laws with firearms don't make sense, or age of majority. They'll use that our brains aren't mature enough until we're 25, right? They'll use that when it comes to criminal law, right? So this young person made a horrible mistake, but they weren't capable of understanding the implications of the mistake. Oh, but if we want them to vote, let's move it to 16, because 16, we can manipulate those brains and get them to think one party or the other is better. So it's all being manipulated, all of this age of majority and what age, should you qualify for anything. I know a business like car rentals won't let you rent until you're 25. Yeah. But that's based on data that most of us get into car accidents before we're 25. And your insurance rates go down if, once you turn 25. So that's based on a company making a good decision in their best interest. It has nothing to do with infringing on our rights. Cars are our privilege. So again, all this arbitrary back and forth. In the end, we have a constitution. That constitution is supposed to frame how everything gets done. And if people want to change how our rights exist and are allocated to us, then you need to do constitutional amendments. But you have to do so in compliance with the Bill of Rights. Because those 10 were don't don't mess with these 10. These 10 are like sacrosanct. Don't mess with them. The rest of it, do as you wish, but only after all states ratify it. So, the political process is important. I think all of us need to really go down to the roots of civics and start understanding how this is all supposed to work, because you are not empowered to stop bad things from happening when you don't know they're happening in a wrong way.
So I think I might have touched on this the last time we had you on here, but the question becomes, it seems like every time you see a major, whether it be a state law that, basically nullifies any city's gun restrictions, whether it be a Supreme Court case like we had a couple years ago, but anytime you see one of these laws or these cases come through, the response from blue cities or states always seems to be, okay, let's slightly change the wording of the law, reenact that law that basically does the same thing, but maybe we changed a colon to a semicolon and moved a couple paragraphs around, and we'll make them fight us on an entirely new court case. And basically what it seems like they're trying to do here is just bleed these organizations dry, because they know you guys are at the end of the day, while you're doing a fantastic job, you're private organizations. You don't have unlimited money, whereas these guys just dip into the taxpayers' bank accounts and basically trample on their rights on their own dime. So how do we get out of this cycle where these guys are just abusing the legal system to draw these battles out so they can just inevitably enact this gun control, and we're just in this like deadly, never-ending cycle?
So I'll tell you this. One of the things that's fascinating about our organization is we don't use any money. We are 100% nonprofit. What does that mean? A lot of nonprofits make a lot of money, but they get paid. They got executive directors. They got bank accounts. They got resources. We own nothing. We have a website. We have
those are expensive nowadays.
Learning management system. We have some business cards. We have some flyers. We have some, banners. Everything we do is sweat equity. So every single one of my board of directors and every volunteer that I have shares his time or her time for free. Membership in my organization, free. I
think I joined it not too long ago.
Yeah. And so every now and then, really rarely, we might do a fundraiser for like a specific educational event or something. But that's, I think, the part that makes us, and I don't want to use the word dangerous, because as soon as I say that, they're going to think, NFOA is dangerous.
Domestic terrorists. Yeah, that's all good. They've tried to slap me with that one.
We are the men on the wall.
Yeah.
I've been watching Game of Thrones again. We're the Night's Watch, right?
Yeah.
So we go up there and we serve, many of us anonymously. No one will ever know us. We're not going to be in the history books. But we keep the White Walkers of government overreach from touching your gun rights. And we'll continue to do that. And 20 years of it, we have strategies that don't cost anything. People have been elected because of our work, because they themselves stayed in compliance with the Constitution, even though we don't endorse anyone, but we certainly share information and we share the truth and we help our members make informed decisions. And so whether you're running for office at the city council, state legislature, governor, what have you, we don't influence our members influence us. And I think that's probably also unique, is it's not Trish's opinion. I canvass my members. They tell me what they want me to do. So I love the idea of this representative government that we have. And we feel that we have the purest form of that.
So if you're the men on the wall, is Gene Stothert the Night King?
Yeah, and I can't wait for Aria to show up. But anyway,
she means that. She doesn't mean literally there. That's
politically.
Politically.
No, we'll see. I mean, and again, I do respect people in general who run for office. I think a lot of people do so with a true heart. They have pure intentions, but the system is ugly. The political system is ugly. It has a culture that I think is toxic. And if you don't go in with your shields up and surround yourself with, people with incredible ethics and integrity, the system can draw you back down into the darkness, even transforming the best people into minions of the system. And that's unfortunate.
Swamp creatures. Yeah. That's kind of what we call. I mean, I use words that I understand you can't, but I've had many of people in politics, local politics specifically, tell me, I wish I could say things the way you do.
No, and
I have no master. I serve nobody. So it's like, let's say what I want.
Yeah. And I will say this, like having every now and then thought about like running for something. I was talking to a good friend and he's like, well, how would you do that? And I said, you know what? If I ran and I was elected, I would just speak my mind for however long I stayed in office, and repercussions be damned, in the sense that this is not, to me, a role that, should get you paid. We have a very, moderately underpaid unicameral.
Oh yeah. It's like 12 grand a year.
Yeah. And so, the only way you're going to make bank, I guess, in that kind of role is just by selling your soul. And so I would not sell my soul. And maybe I would enjoy just being a voice of reason and literally speak my mind. And I've seen it. And recently with the new administration, I don't know if you've been watching our new representative who speaks at all the press conferences, that young lady.
Oh, yes. We've been following her. Yeah.
Yeah. Fantastic. I'm like, heck yeah, that's exactly how I feel.
Yeah. It sounds like you're talking yourself into running.
Oh God, stop me, Caleb.
No, I won't.
No.
I won't do it because I can't run, because I've had someone who's involved in politics tell me, if there weren't like 3 hours worth of tape of you using various slurs and insulting people, you'd probably actually make a pretty good politician. But I don't think I want to do that. So it's all good.
No, you have, and the thing is you in the media, right? Like media is just the form of conveying information. You have an essential job to do.
Yeah.
You have an absolutely essential job to do. And honestly, if we didn't have people like you, whether you're loved or hated or people dislike your language or whatever, that freedom that you exercise all the time is at its roots an example of what America's about. We will share the ugly. We will say it in a horrible way. And we'll say it in a beautiful way. And we'll have wonderful things to say. The whole spectrum of it. That's what makes us different. I look at my friends who are stuck in the UK right now, and it's mind-boggling that the country from which many of us, we were founded originally as a colony, right? And we shared so many values of freedom. We fought in World War I together. We fought in World War II together. Global war and terror time. I have a lot of friends, and just this conversation we're having today can't happen in the UK without both of us getting arrested. And I'm not even saying this stuff, but I'm helping you say it. And that's just mind-boggling.
Oh yeah. Oh, we covered the rape gangs pretty extensively. Just absolutely repulsive over there. And I think that plays into what you're saying. I mean, the first day it's give up your guns so that we can be safer and stop these mass shootings. Then you've got gangs of people going around kidnapping kids out in front of schools. And not only can you not do anything about it, you get arrested if you report it. I mean, that's what happens.
Yeah, it is definitely true. The slippery slope is, often used and sometimes condemned, but it's still true.
Oh, it's 100% true. It's 100% true. The slippery slope. I'd be hard pressed to find anyone who still thinks the slippery slope is an actual fallacy. I mean, I'm someone who I don't have a problem with two gay guys getting married, right? I think I use that as an example of the slippery slope. I think it should have stopped right there. It started with two gay guys getting married. Now it's if you don't cut your 12-year-old's junk off, you're a bigot. And we should have drawn the line a long time ago as far as how far we were going to take this LGBTQ thing. But that's a whole other diatribe I'm not going to get into. So you work with like women's self-defense courses and stuff like that too, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. So being a woman, I had my own journey, and I wanted to bring that journey to Nebraska because it's, challenging to go off and afford all the training that I've been able to take. And so I go out, I get educated, I get trained, my skills improve, and then I bring that back and share it with other women. Last night was a wonderful example. I got to meet up with some really dear friends that I hadn't seen in a long time. And they just happened to have been a part of an organization I run, which is another nonprofit for women called Armed Women of America. And I, had the honor of being their first instructor, right? Beginning to introduce them to this whole new world of firearms, self-defense, home security, and all that. And now these ladies are out taking more advanced training. So we went into a simulator last night where we got to do, self-defense scenarios, whether we, see whether we would live or die in the event a certain situation happened. And it was phenomenal to watch them perform, right? Defend themselves, make good decisions, apply the law when they're under extreme amounts of stress. And then watching this, extremely qualified facilitator who is leading the training, commend them, right, on their skill set and stuff. And to know that I played like a little part in that is amazing for me. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it seems to be harder to get women into guns. Let me tell you
the truth. Let me throw that out the window. We are the largest contingent of Americans now buying guns.
Are you?
Growing demographic. Yep. We have, let's see, within the firearm industry, we have manufacturers now that are addressing our hand size, our upper body strength, the length of our arms for long guns. And it is amazing. So it's still seen as kind of like, ooh, women and guns. The thing is we're just there. You don't see us though, right?
Yeah.
So we're everyday women from all walks of life. Like, I had, I think like 150 members just in Omaha who would train with me once a month. And now we have chapters down near Firth, Nebraska, down here in Plattsmouth and Syracuse and in Bellevue. There's a new group called A Girl with a Gun that's led by one of my mentees who's become an amazing firearm instructor herself. She's out in Omaha doing that. And then we have the Women for Gun Rights, which is a national organization, and I'm running that here in Nebraska. We go to DC. We walk between the Senate and the House multiple times over a series of days, meeting with all our elected officials. And so it's a storm. It's just a quiet storm. But women are going to be the face of the Second Amendment because the population is growing. We need firearms for our own personal safety. We need the education and training on how to avoid violent criminal attack, to apply good situational awareness. And that training is happening through multiple venues. It's awesome.
Yeah. See, I'm trying to get my wife to start a Gun Bunny Instagram account so I can retire and we can just grift off of that. But she's not taking the bait so far, so I don't know what to do.
Well, you can give her something else to do.
You go.
And a lot of times, I have a lot of friends who are gun bunnies, and as much as they are, obviously probably aesthetically pleasing, and they're showcasing some really like sick firearms, and it creates that awesome image, and grabs a lot of attention. You'd be surprised about how many are using that platform to actually do political work.
Yeah,
because they're making connections, they're well known. They have good followers. And so their voices are being added to the Second Amendment world in a way that is like really respectable and very inspiring, in my opinion.
That's what I've been telling her, because she usually co-hosts this show with me. And I'm like, you are a Native American conservative female. We could weaponize you and go so far. There's no, they wouldn't know how to address you. She won't do it, though. She doesn't like to be in front of the camera. She's always off camera talking.
Sure. Well, and she has a place too, because I'll tell you, there are a lot of what I call secret warriors, right? And her ability to articulate her perspective in the written form has just as much power as me going down to the state capitol and testifying in front of everyone on camera. So her voice is just as important as mine if she wants to use it in a different way. Yeah,
absolutely. So where can, what's the name of your organization? Where can people go to learn more, support, all that good stuff?
All right. So the Nebraska Firearm Owners Association, you can look at us at nebraskafirearms.org. Find us on Facebook. We have one of the largest Facebook presences in Nebraska for nonprofits. You can also check out, if you're a woman, Women for Gun Rights. Come join my Nebraska Coalition. And then if you want to have more hands-on opportunity, check out Armed Women of America. We have chapters in Omaha, Bellevue, and in the Lincoln area.
All right. Trisha, Harrold, thank you so much for coming on. We'll have to have you back on soon.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Caleb. Thanks for all you do.
Yeah, take care. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We'll see you guys Monday. Cheat on your taxes, not your spouse. And you know the drill. Stay based.